Welcome to POLI-TRICKS, with Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies, bringing you the news you can use as it pertains to the idiocracies in politics. That's right. Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies. I don't care if you're a libertarian or Democratic or Republican. About politics. The sun is key, and the key to your freedom is knowledge. Vote. Or your ass. Don't forget to vote. Tell someone you know who isn't voting to vote.
And welcome to another episode of POLI-TRICKS with Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies. They said, why is he laughing like that? Because he lost his fucking mind behind politics. Odie, do your thing.
Good evening, all. So, definitely want to preface the story by saying I had a nice, lovely, productive conversation with Blue earlier today, just about, kind of framing our minds to be more optimistic. And the holidays is a good time to do that because we all need, more feel-good stories in our life. And I said, I'm going to make a conscious effort to send out things that I think are positive, or at least some good news, kind of look for the silver lining in life, right? Such as life. So shortly after we have this conversation, I see the article, and I think we talked about it briefly on Saturday about one of 45 judicial nominees for the federal court. And for those that don't know, this is a huge deal because 45, when he's long gone, these people are still going to affect our day-to-day operations. We're going to be left with the shit that these people have, that they have to offer as far as their expertise or lack thereof. And as far as people who, we can just look at 45's cabinet and see that he hasn't given people deserving certain titles. Secretary of Education, as far as confirmation hearings, that's probably the worst that we've ever seen. And most recently, Matthew Peterson was recently nominated for a federal judge position, and his hearing also went viral as he was questioned about some of his qualifications and credentials. In the video, you see, don't have me lying about the titles, but I feel like they were senators. Mm-hmm. But actually, the person that was asking him was a Republican, if that matters. So someone who was on 45's side who should be making this guy look good if there's any good to be seen. He's asking him basic questions about, have you ever heard of this motion? Have you ever heard of that motion? Are you familiar with this sort of trial? And basically every answer was, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I talked about it in law school, but no, I have not. And then also, too, with Matthew Peterson, he hadn't tried any trials as a judge, which is like, what the fuck? Like, how can you just stop right there? Like, let's not even consider you. But nope, here he is looking to be confirmed and going viral for bad reasons. But to get back to the silver lining, today this man actually withdrew himself for consideration as a judicial nominee. So shout out to Matthew Peterson for at least having a conscience and pretending to give a fuck about his job. I was watching some commentary. I cannot remember what show it was. No, actually it was The View, surprisingly. I don't watch The View, but I must have seen it online. Yeah, and it was Meghan McCain who made this comment, and she was just like, we've never really seen in any administration where the people who are known that are being appointed by 45 are really obsessed with fame. Like, it seems like everyone just is willing to do whatever at all costs. They don't seem to, all they care about is being, like, kind of that infamous thing we were talking about the other day, where you don't care if you're known for being good or bad, you just want to be known. And you're you want to sell a book or be a celebrity when this is all said and done with, and go back out into the real world and be famous. And it just seems like we don't see enough of that now. It's just about, well, what is my payday looking like? And, you know, is this good for me, for my brand, for the long run? And just shout out to Matthew Peterson for finally showing some sort of sense. And thank you for sharing that, Merce, because we all could use a little bit of good news, and it just seems to be few and far between with this administration. So shout out to him. Now, if he would step down from his title altogether with what he was doing before, because it still sounds like he's highly underqualified for his current job,
right.
You know, that would be even better, but I'm going to take this win for what it is right now.
You know, for me, I mean, watching that guy was kind of painful. And I was just thinking, it was just like, that's like if I applied for a job to be an auto mechanic and they were like, do you know about carburetors? And I was like, well, I know of them. You know, like, and I can't even change a tire, but I'm trying to become a head mechanic at a shop. And they ask you questions and I have no clue what they're talking about. But I'm applying for that job because I just happened to one time carry golf bags for the guy who owns the place, you know. So they figured, well, he'll just come in and just learn the job on the go. If you're, and exactly like you said, long after Trump is gone, this guy's going to be, because federal judges are lifetime appointments.
Lifetime appointments, absolutely.
So you're there until you either get caught in a sexual scandal. Like there's a judge from the Ninth Circuit who I didn't write up on that, but there's a judge from the Ninth Circuit who is quitting because of sexual allegations against him. So it's absolutely insane that this guy would even sit in front of Congress and let them ask him questions. He has no clue what the hell's going on.
Yo, zoom out for a minute.
Yeah.
Wasn't like Obama blocked from getting his judge in there? Like when he was actively the president, and
yes.
Like this happened for like a whole year. Like they blocked him for a whole year of getting his judge in there.
Yep.
Now how was that even justified? May I ask?
Oh, you can't justify it. There is no justification for it. But the problem is,
we know what the rationale is. It's not justified, but we know what the rationale is.
Yeah, because the rationale was when you figure Obama had two other Supreme Court appointments, you know, Sonia Sotomayor and Helena Kagan, right? If I pronounce the name right, because I keep wanting to say Kay Hagan, who was somebody completely different. He had those appointments. It didn't matter because Republicans still had the 5-4 lean, right? But when what's his name? Not Gorsuch, the guy who preceded him, Scalia. When Scalia died, right? If Obama appointed another quote-unquote liberal judge, then basically they could undo all the horrible shit that they did, because you know that Citizens United would be back at the Supreme Court before you know it. And all the horrible stuff that Republicans got would end up going away. So Mitch did what he had to do, and I'm not saying it like I approve of it. You know, it was a disgusting thing to do, but the problem is no one's going to hold Mitch McConnell accountable for it because of the partisan bias. Because if Nancy Pelosi did something like that, they'd probably try and shoot her. Okay, but Mitch McConnell does it, and it's just, you know, it's just a strategy. It's kind of like what they said about Tom Brady on South Park. If you cheat and you win, then no, I said it totally wrong. If you cheat and you lose, then you're a cheater. But if you cheat and you win, then you're savvy. You know.
Preach.
So basically, that's what, you know, Mitch McConnell got away with, one of the greatest thefts in political history, and no one's going to call him on it. And if he runs again in Kentucky, he's going to win again. So it's almost, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not worth mentioning, but whenever Mitch McConnell comes up there and tries to condemn people, I'm just like, the fuck is you talking about, old turtle? Because you are the worst partisan politician who ever walked the face of the earth. So, speaking of the worst who ever walked the earth, did you hear about the Trayvon Martin thing?
You mean George Zimmerman?
Yeah. Well,
that young man's murderer.
Yep. Jay-Z is making a Trayvon Martin biopic. Not a biopic, a bio-series. Docu-series.
Yes, like kind of like Khalif Browder, which I could never bring myself to watch. I think it's just, I would say if I had never been introduced to Khalif Browder to kind of know how that story ended, then I would be inclined to watch. But it's just like knowing how what the outcome was. No, that's just not something I could bring myself to watch. But maybe one day I will.
Yeah. But basically, they're making the docuseries about Trayvon Martin. It's based on a book that was written about it. And George Zimmerman got mad because supposedly, the people from the docuseries are, quote unquote, harassing his family for interviews and quotes and stuff like that. So I guess he's mad because I didn't come to him. Because, I mean, how can he? He's homeless. No, I don't know if he's homeless for sure, but I know he's having a really rough time. I mean, not that I give a shit.
He's MIA?
Yeah. So he was on some bullshit website, and they were giving an interview, and he said that he was going to beat Jay-Z and feed him to an alligator. And it wasn't even Jay-Z's fault, because supposedly the producer of the thing, Michael Gasparo, was the ones who were approaching his family for quotes. So it had nothing to do with Jay-Z, that part of it, but he figured Jay-Z's the most recognizable. And then he said, I know how to handle people who fuck with me. I have since February 2012. That was when he killed Trayvon. So basically, so far Jay-Z hasn't
say that, or was that something somebody said he said? Come on, that don't even sound like something a logical man would come out of his face and say.
No, he did say that.
You got a sound bite?
Yeah. Well, it's not a sound bite, it's from the article.
No, that don't count.
So it's a quote from the article that he said that. And I hear what you're saying, because it's like, really? But no, he actually did say that. And Snoop Dogg was on Instagram talking about it, and Snoop Dogg basically just said, real quick before I move on, he said Zimmerman, his quote was, if one hair on Jay's head is touched, that's when the revolution will be televised. And then he thanked the system for letting this bitch ass motherfucker get away with murder. And then he said, Trayvon Martin's gone but not forgotten.
Okay, and just to clarify, I'm going ahead and looking this up. This is just like on a random website. This website is the Kansas City Star. This is updated an hour and a half ago. Okay. And he's in quotes from. He said he holds Jay-Z and executive producer Michael Gasparo responsible, and anyone who fucks with my parents will be fed to an alligator. But I did see that quote just now, that same exact quote, and he has since 2012. I'm gonna come back. It says, I know how to handle people who fuck with me. I have since February 2012, he told the website. This is a website called The Blast. Yeah. That I'd never heard of before today. I've never heard of it. It looks a lot like they tried to model it after TMZ. It's probably just a whole lot of clickbait. But I guess the CNNs and the MSNBCs have just finally realized, why are we giving this murdering scumbag interviews? I mean, we got Trump. We can get ratings off of Trump. We don't need this guy. Why do a murderer when we could do a rapist? I know, alleged rapist. I'm sorry, Blue. But speaking of rape, in a metaphysical sense, Obamacare, the premiums are going to be going up again, right? And it has nothing to do with Obamacare itself. It has to do with the fact that because they couldn't defeat Obamacare as a law, they're trying to sabotage it. And I have friends who complain about Obamacare, but they keep hating on Obama. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with Obama. It has to do with the Republicans who are constantly trying to sabotage it. So you figure Trump cut the budget for advertising, right? Because before you saw advertising all the time for Obamacare, and now you probably saw it because somebody forwarded you something on Facebook telling you when the enrollment period is, right? So they cut the enrollment period by more than a month, I think it was. And then
they cut its advertising budget by like 90%. So basically, people didn't know that they can sign on to Obamacare. Here's the thing, right, with insurance, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but the more people who have your insurance, the cheaper your premiums are going to be because there's more money in the pool. You understand? Put it like this, okay? Let's just break it down to something that 25-year-olds can understand, okay? If you have a party and you're getting 5 hookers, right? And it's one of those parties where you could just do whatever you want to with the hookers all night long. They charge you $200 a piece, right?
Ew, who wants to do something with a hooker? They have STDs.
That's why they make condoms. But let's just say you got 5 of them, right? $200 a piece is $1,000.
They're going to protect you from everything. Let's be
I know.
education things. HPVs can be caught from skin to skin. I seen this lady. She had this full beard of bumpy bumps. And why did she have them? Because she was, eating the kuta of somebody who had an HPV, and that wasn't pimples. That was an HPV breakout. So
And the fact that you said the fact that you said full beard almost
use a dental dam, and that's your safe sex tip today from POLI-TRICKS.
And the fact that you said a full beard of it, I was like, almost makes me want to change my analogy. But check it out, though. If you got 5 of them, right, $200 a piece is $1,000 for the night, right? If you have 5 buddies, you and 4 more buddies, you're paying $200 a piece. If you manage to get 10 people in on this party, now you're only paying $100 a piece. Let's say you go for the gusto, you get 15 people. You're only paying $66 a piece. And that's a very simplified analogy. But the more people...
we could have just gone with renting a house on Airbnb for $20,000 for the weekend. You ain't have to go there and bring the hookers and shit into it, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. But the thing is this, right? That's the reason why they had the mandate. Because they needed enough people to buy into the insurance to keep the premiums down. So now that less people, and granted, they had a nice little surge in the beginning, but with the cutoff date moved up, they didn't get enough people. So now premiums are going to go up again, right? Because one of the features that they took out was that there's no cost controls. So now they could just raise premiums because they didn't have enough people sign up. So it's not because of Obamacare itself, it's because of 45 and its hatred of anything with Obama's name on it, that they are going to they're going to try and tear it down. Any regulation with his name on it is going out the window, no matter how ridiculous it is to get rid of it. The thing about the government is that it's a very easy target for politicians like Republicans. They hate the government, even though they're in it. So it's almost like they're saying, "Hey, I'm running for office because government's not the answer." That was Reagan's line. Government is not the answer. So vote for me so I can be president.
Well, he was an actor, though, so
Yeah. Well,
actor was.
He was a so-so actor.
Acted the shit out of that role because there was so many power play. But in every president in term is an actor. I think Obama kind of broke the mold. But remember, they're not ultimately the ones in power. The people behind them are the ones that's pulling the strings. As you see, he got very little done in his presidency due to the other people that have more power than him pulling the strings. The same people who cry about welfare, and yet their medical insurance sure does look a lot more powerful than Medicaid, and they pay no money into it.
Yeah. You figure it like this. Everybody hates the government until they need the government. Nobody wants government in their lives until there's a hurricane or a flood and they need that FEMA check. Then they're like, well, I pay taxes. Where's my FEMA check? Okay? But the Republicans are good at that rhetoric, right? They know how to muddy the waters. They know how to distort the airwaves with all their bullshit lies. So because of the rhetoric of Republicans, people see regulations as bad. And they repeat those buzzwords. Like they say regulations are job killing, right? Because now if Progress Energy has to pay to get rid of coal ash the right way instead of just dumping it in the river, that's job killing. Now they don't say it like that, of course, right? But it's technically what they're saying, right? Put it like this. Even things that people take for granted have to start someplace, right? Like little simple regulations, like putting on your seatbelt, right? Now, if the cops catch you without your seatbelt, you get a ticket. I don't know if that's a federal thing or just a state thing, but I know in New York it was that way. I think in North Carolina it's that way too, right? Or
yeah, definitely. I've gotten a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah,
and more so.
Put it like this: I knew a guy, and I'm trying to get him on the show too. But he was in an accident many years ago. His car lost control of his car, hydroplaned and hit a truck, right? So he was in the front, he was driving, and he had his seatbelt on. And he suffered a broken thigh, broken collarbone. The guy in the passenger seat had a broken sternum, right? But they were in the front. The guy who was in the back, he died because in the impact, he was sitting like in that little space between the front, between the seats. So when the impact happened, he flew and he hit his head on the windshield, and he died from his injuries. So you figure if the two people in the front had survived, if he was in the back and he had a seatbelt on, he'd have been hurt, but he would have been fine, right? Car seats for babies. There's laws that you have to have. I mean, if you have a baby in your car, you can't just hold it in your arms. You got to have a car seat. Because, you have to remember one thing about these regulations. Most of these regulations are born from tragedy. And the thing is, you want to keep those tragedies from happening, so you make regulations to make it so. Car seats for babies, or if you're under a certain height and weight as a child, you have to sit in the back seat with a seatbelt. You can't be in the front seat because those kids could be injured by airbags, right? Because they're not strong enough to withstand the impact of an airbag if there's an accident. Motorcycle helmets. Very simple one. There was after Ben Roethlisberger got hurt in that motorcycle accident, he's quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a new emphasis on motorcycle helmets and motorcycle helmet safety. So the laws are on the books, but they were just emphasizing it more because someone famous got hurt. And there was a guy, and I'm not making this up to be funny, it was an article. He was having a one-man protest against motorcycle helmets. So he's riding around in his motorcycle without a helmet. And no joke, he gets into an accident and he dies. Right? And the doctor said, not to be funny, but the doctor said if he was wearing a helmet, he would have lived. So he just basically just proved our point. Even something like lawn darts. I talked about this in the earlier show, about the lawn darts. So long story short, a guy wanted to buy a volleyball set, ended up buying one that had a whole bunch of backyard games in it. One of them was lawn darts. So he had the lawn darts in his garage. His son and his friends find the lawn darts, start playing with them in the backyard. And one of the kids threw the lawn dart over the roof. And the lawn dart landed and hit the kid's little sister in the head and killed her. Right? So the father, struck with grief, he went on a personal crusade to have lawn darts banned. And it finally happened, but, when in his research, he found out that dozens and dozens of people were injured every year. Some were even killed by lawn darts. Have you ever seen a lawn dart?
What is that? I don't think so.
It's basically a game where you take this giant lawn dart, and it's basically just a big rubber dart with a metal tip. And you have a target at the other end of the lawn, and you throw the darts up in the air and let it land on the target. So they have like underground lawn dart competitions and stuff like that because you're not supposed to, have the lawn darts anymore. Because now it's underground. Now it's all, lawn darts. But they're really dangerous because they're giant darts with metal tips. Even with sprinklers. I was reading up on, I was trying to find, because I remember seeing a movie about this when I was in school. And it was a movie about I have all these pages scrunched together. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Back in 1911. It was the deadliest industrial disaster, one of the deadliest in the world. Well, in the deadliest in U.S. history, I should say. The fire killed 146 people. They were all garment workers. 123 women, 23 men. The oldest, they were mostly Italian and Jewish immigrant women. Most of them were aged between 16 and 23. The oldest was 43. The youngest was 14 years old. And basically, they barred the doors to keep people from taking extra breaks and stealing stuff. So you have a fire that burns, that goes out, not goes out, but the whole place goes up. It's all garments, so the place is going up like a Roman candle, and then you block all the exits. So the International Ladies Garment Workers Union was born from that tragedy, and also a whole lot of safety standards came from that. But so, like I said, tragedy brings about these regulations. I said on an earlier show, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. When they, yeah,
that's typical.
Well, and that's the thing, because a lot of these things are unknown unknowns, like lawn darts. Who would? I mean, honestly, if you've seen a lawn dart, you would know. Hey, someone's gonna lose an eye with this thing, right? Especially if the little kids are playing with it. The little kids have no sense of, hey, maybe this might put my eye out. It just looks fun, they'll just do it. But the fact that so many people were getting hurt and they were suppressing that information, that's another thing. Even with sprinklers with homes, I mentioned this in the earlier show, glossing over it really quick. A baby died in a fire because the house went up so fast, the firemen couldn't get in there to save the child. So a lot of states are trying to pass laws to make, for new homes, to make sprinklers mandatory. That you have to build the sprinklers in with the house, with the new house. And contractors were fighting it tooth and nail, spending money, lobbying, and even some laws that made it onto the books were pulled off the books. Why? Because they can't sell the stuff to you if it's already there. So their whole thing is they wanted to be able to sell the stuff as extra, and then egg you on with the whole, hey, don't you want your family to be safe? Then pay extra. Instead of just having it become standard with the house, which would have been so much easier to do, because now they can't charge you for ripping up your entire house and putting in sprinklers. Or just charging extra from the jump. Whenever you have these things, there's always money involved. And then there's always another twist to it, whereas even when there's laws on the books that aren't being enforced, then it's because of money. Put it like this. I just saw this story today. Young Turks had this story. In Florida, in Tallahassee, there was a illegal immigrant working construction. They were building a firehouse, right? And he has an accident. He cuts his finger almost to the bone, right? So he can't work. So the boss fired him, right? So now he's like, well, I can't work because my finger's all messed up. He tried to file for workman's comp. When he tried to file for workman's comp, the boss called immigration on him and had him deported.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing about that, right? My whole thing about illegal immigrants, I'm just gonna put that on the shelf for now, right? My thing is this. There was a local newspaper in Florida who covered that story. That's how it landed on a Young Turk's desk. They found out there were hundreds of these cases where illegal immigrants were working, get hurt, and when they try to get some sort of compensation, their bosses have them deported because they don't want to pay for their workman's comp. You figure they're already paying these guys probably half of what a normal worker would make. And then when they get hurt, they don't want to pay for them. Now, here's the thing. In Florida, just like it is in most states, it is illegal to hire illegal immigrants. So it's the responsibility of the employer to say, hey, we need to see we need proof. Like when you file your job application, they always ask you, are you a resident of the United States? You gotta have a social security number. They gotta check it out, right? And they're not doing that. So here's the thing. Why aren't these guys going to jail or being fined for hiring illegal immigrants? because these contractors contribute to politicians, who then have these boards look the other way when these guys blatantly break the law. Arizona has a huge problem with illegal immigrants because they share a border with, I think they share a border with Mexico, right?
They do.
I want to say Alabama does. Don't quote me. I don't know why I don't pull up a map and sit in front of my computer. But the thing is, all these border states, right? They have laws on the books that you can't hire illegal immigrants. You're not even supposed to offer them housing, right? The apartment complex I lived in before it got torn down, the first year that I lived there, right? You know, I read all my paperwork. They would let you live there even if you don't have a Social Security card. You just have to come up with 2 extra months of rent. So if your rent was $650 a month, that means you had to come up with like almost $2,000 to be able to stay there. Not per month, but just, up front, 2 extra months of rent. When the new management came in, they stopped that. They were like, no, if you live here, you got to have a Social Security card. We got to check you out. And all of a sudden, you just saw people just disappearing. So there was a family, and it looked like they were just there for the long haul. They had pictures hung up and everything. Like they had their windows open. You could see them eating dinner. 2 days later, I walked by that place. That place was empty. Everything gone. Because now they're like, oh, yeah, we got to check you out. And then they were out. Packed up in the middle of the night and left. Those laws are on the books. So the main thing is, if they have those regulations, why aren't they following those regulations? Because somebody's getting money from it. Look at net neutrality, right? Like I said, this stuff is reactive, right? Like Odie said, it's reactive, right? We figure, hey, if something bad is happening, we got to prevent it from happening further, right? Why do you think that they went through all that trouble to make internet a utility, push toward making it a utility? Title II, they called it, right? Because it's not because they thought this stuff was going to happen, where internet service providers start messing with people. It already happened. It already happened in Netflix, right? And they tried to get around it. Here's the thing. Magazine called the... I apologize. I'm working on one screen. All my stuff is just scrunched up together. But between The Verge and Digital Trends and The Consumerist is where I saw it. Reading up on the whole Comcast thing and why it didn't exactly break net neutrality laws at the time. This happened in 2014. The Title II thing happened in 2015. You figure Comcast was throttling Netflix, right? Slowing down their traffic. They weren't doing it on purpose. So in other words, they didn't purposely slow down their traffic. They simply let their traffic bottleneck, right? So the way that The Consumerist explained it, they used a food analogy. I'm not going to use an analogy with hookers this time. I'm using food. So
give it to me, baby.
if you're a restaurant, right, and let's say I'll be a little bit funny here, like from the Boondocks, and I'll sell Luther burgers, which was basically just a hamburger with donuts as the bread. I'm selling Luther burgers, right, and it's not a problem. But then the 5 o'clock dinner rush comes, right, and all of a sudden there's not enough burgers going to the customers, right? Here's the thing. If we just said, like the wait staff just said, you know what, I don't want these two to have Luther burgers at all. Or I just said, oh, you know what, these fat bastards don't need Luther burgers, give them salads instead. That would be illegal. We can't do that. Because if they want a Luther burger, give them a goddamn Luther burger, right? But if it's because, hey, it's the 5 o'clock rush, but we have 4 people out, and no one else wants to come in and work, and we're trying as fast as we can, but we can't get enough burgers out, then that's fine. That's how they got around the net neutrality thing, and that's how they didn't get fined for it. Because instead of them purposely throttling Netflix, they just let it bottleneck. Now, they could have opened that bottleneck no problem because they do it for other sites. It's a courtesy, but then they figured, you know what? Let's make some money off of this. So Netflix eventually had to pay Comcast to open the lanes so they can get their traffic out so people don't, so people can have their service uninterrupted. Now, at one point, Netflix did throttle their own service for cell phones and devices, and that's because they didn't want people to go over their caps. Because if people start going over their caps, then they won't want to have Netflix on their phones anymore. But Netflix solved that by saying, hey, on your phones, we'll just let you look at it at a lower resolution. So instead of looking at 1080p, you can go 450. And this way you can still watch your show and you won't go over your caps. But you figure they went in and just said, hey, all this stuff bottlenecking, if you pay us, we'll let your traffic go through uninterrupted. And eventually they paid. And they didn't disclose how much they paid, so people were predicting it's anywhere between $12 million and $50 million that they had to pay per year to Comcast to have that go through. And you figure a year later, Obama pressured his FCC chairman to move internet traffic into Title II, which would make it a utility and make it protected. And now you have lying sacks of shit like Ted Cruz out there saying, we're going to free the internet. No, the internet was already free. That's the whole point of net neutrality, is that it stays free, that the ISPs can't control it and do what they want to with it. Just the lies. Mark Hamill, everybody knows he's Luke Skywalker. He cracked on a Jeep pie. You remember on Saturday we talked about a Jeep pie and his need to be loved.
Yeah.
Even though he's a scumbag with his fucking brick teeth and his fucking goofy punchable face. But when he was, doing this whole pop culture thing, like, look, I watch Game of Thrones too. he had like the cloak on, and he was doing the Star Wars stuff with the lightsaber, right? And Mark Hamill tweeted, and he said, "Cute video, Ajit, aren't I precious pie? But you are profoundly unworthy to wield the lightsaber. A Jedi acts selflessly for the common man, not lie to enrich giant corporations." And he says, by the way, did you pay John Williams his royalty? Because they used the Star Wars music in the video, right? And then he said, hashtag, and he says, at Ajit Pie, FCC corporate shill. And then he says, hashtag, a Jedi you are not. So of all people to answer back, Ted Cruz. Let me tell you how much of a scumbag Ted Cruz is. When Ted Cruz was running for president, he was trying to, kiss his daughter for some photo shoot, and his daughter was like, ew, get away, ew. I'm surprised she didn't yell out, stranger danger, he's not my daddy. That's how creepy Ted Cruz looked trying to kiss his daughter. And innocently enough, on the cheek, it wasn't like he was trying to tongue her down, but for that photo shoot, she was not trying to have it. Like, Ted Cruz is just a creepy looking guy, and just a total scumbag. So Ted Cruz writes back, and he says, and Mark Hamill's Twitter feed is Hamill himself, and he says, he called him Luke. He's like, Luke, I know Hollywood could be confusing, but it was Darth Vader who supported government power over everything, over everything said and done on the internet. That's why giant corporations, and then he mentions Google, Facebook, and Netflix, why giant corporations supported the FCC power grab of net neutrality. And he says, reject the dark side, free the net. Let me tell you how much horseshit is in that one tweet. First of all, he called him Luke, trying to be condescending. He knows his name is fucking Mark Hamill. That's like if you, like Lewis Black said, the true sign of a psychopath is somebody who sees a soap opera star on the street and calls them by their character's name.
I knew what he was trying to do was stun him.
I'm a psychopath. I do that all the damn time.
But I think he was trying to stun him, like on some Luke, I am your father kind of shit. Like, if I'm supposed to be like this Darth Force like Darth Vader, then you my son. Like that, I think that was his way of trying to.
I agree with Hope.
Maybe I'm thinking too much.
A bad job at sunning. You know, African Americans are the king of sunning.
Yep. Yep.
But, and here's the thing. Net neutrality is not a power grab. Net neutrality is preventing the power grab. So he has the whole thing twisted backwards. And of course, the yokels who watch Fox News, they're just swallowing it up like, yeah, down with regulations. You know, the same jackasses who lived in West Texas, West being the name of the town that practically blew up where the fertilizer plant went up. That if they were following their regulations, right, and doing what they were supposed to be doing at that plant would have been fine. But that plant hadn't been checked out in such a long time that, the gases got out of control and the whole plant blew up. People got killed. Those are the people who, and then what made it worse is that even like a month afterward, they still didn't want to be regulated because in their minds, they're saying, well, we don't want the government in our business. So what if our town blew up? Who gives a shit? Stay out of our way, government. So Ted Cruz can tell a blatant lie, like net neutrality is the power grab, and his yokels will just eat it up. But then Mark Hamill got him back, and he says, thanks, and I've been trying to pronounce this correctly all day, so bear with me. Thanks for smarm-splaining it to me, being smarmy. He says, I know politics can be confusing, but you'd have more credibility if you spell my name correctly. I mean, it's right there in front of you. He says, maybe you're just distracted from watching porn at the office again. And I was like, Mark Hamill making him pee blood. Straight kidney shots. Just, Ted Cruz is always out of his element. Always out of his element. When he debated Bernie Sanders over healthcare, Bernie Sanders made him look like a jackass. Because Ted Cruz is all talking points and no substance. That's like on The Simpsons. I'm making applesauce power bars, and it's really nothing but apple cores and shredded up Chinese newspapers. That's basically Ted Cruz.
Yum.
It's basically just he's just all filler. So the whole thing with net neutrality and all this other stuff, it's very simple. All you gotta do is just read it. Okay? Just read an article, not from Fox News, not from Breitbart, not from The Blaze, not from any of those horseshit websites. It's The Blaze. I don't even know if The Blaze is still a magazine anymore. That was what's his name? Glenn Beck's magazine, the one where Tommy Lauren was at before she went to Fox News.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to get out of your bubble, people. You're in that bubble and you're suffocating in your bubble. Got to get out of your bubble and just, see the world beyond your front door. How in the hell can, I don't know, maybe I'm just too smart, and I don't think that's the case, because I'm sitting here like, it can't be any simpler than net neutrality is a good thing. Net neutrality keeps everything even. Like I said last week, all these jackasses who run these websites, freedompatriot.net with the giant eagles and the big wavy flags on it, you're going to be the first to go when Comcast decides that they don't want you talking about blacks and women and Jews like shit. You're going to be the first to go. You're going to get blocked. And they're just not seeing it. Twitter was just all these condescending people talking about, net neutrality's been going for 3 days and the earth is still spinning. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, give it time. Give it time. I even though I don't have Comcast, on my Twitter account, I sent a little note to Comcast and I said, hey Comcast, now that net neutrality is gone, when does the rape begin? And should I bring my own Vaseline, or are you going to supply that?
Oh, damn.
Because you know we're all getting raped over here. And it's coming. Because now, without net neutrality, there's no regulations. These telecom companies can do what they want, charge what they want, throttle who they want, choose the content that we see. And especially for the porn sites. You want to know, you remember VHS and Betamax? A lot of people don't remember Betamax. It didn't last that long. You know? Yeah. If you had VHS and you had Betamax, and I had a couple of friends who had Betamax, right? Betamax was actually the better format. It was actually the clearer format. It sounded better, too. Do you know why Betamax didn't survive? Because Betamax didn't do porn. All the porn went to VHS. That is not a lie.
Okay.
You know, porn pretty much decided the fight between Betamax and VHS, even though Betamax was the superior format. So when these porn sites start getting throttled, right? What do you think is going to happen? You know,
I was just thinking about the whole "I want my MTV" campaign.
Right.
But I'm just replacing that with "I want my Pornhub." Yeah.
Basically, it's going to be.
I agree with Merck. I remember the VHS Betamax was. We had a Betamax, and then I think it was, I don't know if it had so much to do with quality, Merck. I think it was the big push from Blockbuster, and it was cheaper for them to get the VHSs over the Betamaxes. And I think it was basically a cheaper way to get the same kind of product out. Because if you remember going to Blockbuster back in those days, remember the Betamax section, even though it was a better quality, it was a lot smaller section. So in comparison, It might be like DVDs to Blu-rays for that time period.
Right. Actually, it would be more like Blu-rays to the HDDs. I don't even remember. I remember, what was it? Xbox 360 had an HDD player at one point instead of going to Blu-ray, and HDD just came and went.
Right.
You know, they just lost out. So it's, you know, there's always like the extra format, the format wars, and you know, it's I can't call it. But the thing is, all these people
skeptical to jump on bandwagons. Like I was skeptical about the Blu-ray bandwagon. I mean, it's doing okay, but I still to this day don't fuck with it. And I got TVs that support it. I have nothing but 4K TVs right now. But I just feel like, Blu-ray. Why would I pay that price? No.
Yeah, I mean,
what was there? There was Zune versus the iPads or the iPods.
iPod, you're right. Right. My girlfriend had a Zoom, and I had an iPod, so exactly. She still has a Zoom, and it still do what it do. But I got an iPod, bitch.
Yeah, nobody cares. Like nobody cares about a Zoom. Then I remember too. I was working at Best Buy, and I think it was maybe not Xboxes, but it was Windows answer to a DVD player. Fuck, what was that called? And it lost out too. And it's definitely obsolete.
I think that was the HDD.
What was it called?
I think HDD, because I remember the Xboxes had those players in them.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Before they went to Blu-ray, because once Blu-ray became the dominant thing. But I mean, I don't have a Blu-ray player anymore because I have an Xbox One and I have a PS4, and they both play Blu-rays. So I end up giving my Blu-ray players away.
But do you keep it like that? Do you even watch Blu-rays like that?
No, I don't. My multimedia computer has a Blu-ray player in it, and I've used it maybe like 4 times, maybe.
My multimedia computer has a Blu-ray. I have an Xbox One. It has a Blu-ray. My PS4 has a Blu-ray. I think I might have rented one once because Redbox might have had a crazy deal just to. I was not impressed. I guess my eyes are bad. I really don't see the difference in quality. Maybe it's because the 4K TVs improve the image of regular DVDs. I don't know.
Right. I think the only brand new Blu-ray I've ever bought was Force Awakens. Every other Blu-ray I own, I got it from the bargain bin at Best Buy. So when they have like the Blu-rays for cheap, for like $8.99, $9.99, then I'll just buy like 3 or 4 of them. But I think Force Awakens is the only reason why I bought that Blu-ray is because it came with a DVD copy in it.
Oh, that's what's up. Okay.
So, because sometimes they come with it. I
can't buy anything I can stream, and that's streamable on Netflix.
Oh yeah. Wait, is Force Awakens on Netflix now, or is this Rogue One?
Oh, I'm sorry. Force Awakens. What's that? What's Force Awakens? Oh yeah.
Force Awakens was the last Star Wars movie.
I might be wrong. You might be right. I thought they all were on there. But hold on. Yeah, I thought they all were on there.
Well, for now,
I was gonna do I know. For
Disney
now,
has their own.
Until Disney do their thing, but I want them cats. With a few exceptions, I can watch a movie one good time and I'm good. With a few exceptions, I can watch Avatar again. And I can watch a movie over again and enjoy it again. But one time is all I need if I was paying attention.
Yep, exactly.
Right. It all depends on the movie. Like I left Blues Brothers with my my ex-girlfriend ended up with a few of my DVDs after we broke up, and I never got them back. And Blues Brothers was one of them. I've seen that movie like 12 times, you know. And then the video I had, it had all the scenes in it that made things make sense. Like you ever watch Blues Brothers?
Yeah, that's a good movie.
John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the part where they walk back to the apartment complex, and then that old man is just like, "You got my cheese whiz, boy?" And he just pulls a can of cheese whiz out of his jacket and tosses it to him. And that scene was funny.
Some great ass scenes, man.
That scene was funny, but it didn't make any sense until I got the extended version of it, and it was like, Elwood worked in a cheese whiz factory. And then they show you him stealing cheese whiz. That's why the old man was like, "You got my cheese whiz, boy?" That's why he just happened to have cheese whiz in his jacket, because he steals it from his job.
All right. Well, anyway, Force Awakens is not on Netflix.
Not yet.
There's an amazing film called The Bitcoin Heist, which you all should see.
Yes, I did see that was on there now. So that's actually on my list of things to watch.
I managed to watch 1922 this weekend, as well as, there was another movie, and it was, but it wasn't on Netflix though. It was The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And I took both of those. They were both in the horror realm. I wasn't really feeling too much in the Christmas spirit this go around, so I watched those and enjoyed them.
You know what? I will say this. I do my I know we got off the track on politics, but I will say this. I do my horror marathon. I watch a movie a day from the 1st of September until Halloween. And there were a couple of movies that I was holding on to for Halloween and ended up not watching them. So one of them was Get Out. I've had that, I got it from Blockbuster. I mean, not Blockbuster, Jesus Christ. From Netflix. I ripped it. It's just sitting there waiting for me to watch it. And then another one from the 70s called Death Dream. And if you ever watched, you ever read the old story called The Monkey's Paw? Death Dream is basically like a modern version of The Monkey's Paw. So I've had those movies sitting on my thing to watch, and now I'm all horrored out though, because I watched like 2 months worth of horror movies, and now I can't bring myself to watch them. But I really want to watch them.
Tell me this, man. Watching all those like back to back like that, did that impact your psyche in any way?
No, I think because I'm used to it now. If I was much younger, and it's funny for me, and maybe it's just kind of my facing my fears. When I was a kid, I was scared of the dark. I was really scared of the dark. And my nephew is a little scared of the dark. And then, I try and now I kind of understand. If I wasn't scared of the dark, I'd be like, "What you scared of the dark for? Boy, you're in your own home." But yeah, I was. And then I had brothers and sisters who knew I was afraid of the dark and thought it was hilarious. So they would just jump out and scare me whenever they could. And to this day, my brother's favorite thing was to hide in the shower with the curtains drawn and then just pop out and scare you when you're trying to take a piss. To this day, my shower curtain is never closed. Whenever I finish taking a shower, it's always open. I'm in my mid-40s, goddammit.
Oh, you still acting like a little bitch? Them niggas smoke your cousin, you ain't gonna do shit?
But for now, I can watch 2 months of horror movies and it doesn't even affect me. Not at all.
Still wash with the shower open. Is that what you're telling me?
No. I mean, I shower with the shower closed. I'm talking about when I'm not in the shower. It's open. Like I won't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, I do that. You never know who might be hiding behind that bitch. You know what I'm saying?
It might be my brother.
And that's a scary guy. No. I'm back, bitches.
But I need to. I may do that on Christmas Day. I may watch Get Out and Death Dream. I'll take them with me on my tablet.
Oh, is Get Out on
No, I ripped it. I have a copy of it on.
Oh, yeah, I don't do that. That's illegal. Yeah. But thankfully, I got a good friend named Odie. I can watch it online. Thank you, Odie. But I can't for some reason I can't bring myself to watch it. I've seen it before and it really messed me up.
Which one? Oh,
Get Out. And I don't even know. Odie, did you happen to see the Get Out that's on the internet or online? Was it on HBO or Showtime? I can't remember.
I saw Get Out in the movie.
Yeah, I saw it in the movie theater too. I was wondering what the alternate version. I didn't see the alternate ending.
Oh,
no.
Okay. I'll skip to the back and see if they have it in this one that's on. I don't know. I forgot what station it's on. Is it HBO or is it Showtime? Anyways, yeah. How the fuck we get so far off the damn topic? Net neutrality. What is it? So break it down in one simple sentence. What it means.
Basically, what net neutrality means is, it means having a free.
The end of it. What does it mean? And why did they end it?
They ended it so that the telecom companies can just basically have exactly the exact opposite of what Ted Cruz said. Ted Cruz says that making it a Title II was a power grab by the FCC. That is absolutely wrong. Making it a Title II means that one company can't just take over, or a few companies can't just take over the internet, right? So in other words, if I have a website, right, even if it's competing with something like YouTube, right, we're still on a level playing field. Yes, YouTube is more established, right, but we're still on a level playing field as far as being able to get out there on the internet. Now, let's just say that I own YouTube, right? And let's just say, Blue, your site is competing with mine. What I could do is this. I could just say, hey, listen, I could throttle your site, right? Make it slower so when people try and access your site, it's really slow and it gets frustrating. And then I was like, well, you know what? Screw it. I'll just go to YouTube.
But zoom out. Don't all them hoes ride like Amazon?
What do you mean?
I guess Amazon is the major host for those streaming lines. I know Hulu was doing it.
No, not Amazon, because Amazon competes with Hulu.
I know, but it's something about they own the T lines, or they own something in which, when it's all said and done, Amazon is able to pull the strings as they wanted to. I don't know. I got to Google it.
Yeah, but that became a major concern of, who owns the lines, because a lot of times it's the telecom companies who put those lines in themselves. Mm-hmm. So they feel that because they laid down the lines, they should own the internet, basically. I mean, I'm being glib, but they feel that because they put the lines down, they should have more control over it. And net neutrality prevented them from doing that. So it's basically a matter of, now if something competes with you, you could just throttle it. So if I have my own streaming service and Odie, you come up and try and have your own streaming service, like I said before, I could just have you throttled. And there's nothing they could do about it. Like I said, the whole thing with Comcast and Netflix is that only through a loophole did Comcast not get fined. When AT&T, no, not AT&T, when Verizon, it was either Verizon or AT&T, I was reading that today, because I didn't even notice until today, when they were trying to throttle people who were using BitTorrents, right? they weren't supposed to do that. So at first they denied it, and then they admitted it, and then they ended up having to pay out a $16 million lawsuit because there was a class action lawsuit against them for that. And then they had to pay out because of net neutrality laws. They weren't allowed to throttle them like that. So that's the thing. The Comcast thing, it was a loophole. Because it wasn't like they were purposely throttling Netflix. They were just allowing their traffic to bottleneck and then not opening up the bottleneck until Netflix paid them. That's one of the reasons why it got moved over into Title II, to prevent those loopholes from happening. So now they have to open up the traffic to you. Right? So the net neutrality thing is a horrible thing, and is basically you have 8 companies who are going to control the internet. And you already had most of these companies, talk about like Comcast, Spectrum, Cablevision, or I forget what they call it now, Optimum, but they're already regional monopolies. You know, like for me, they have me by the balls because I need my internet for work. Where am I going to go? There's no Google Fiber out here yet. There's nowhere for me to go. So if they raise the price by $20 a month, I have to play their game.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. You get a stipend.
I do. But the thing is, if it goes, but they're not going to raise my stipend to cover that. You understand? So I get a stipend, but if they raise the price by $20, they're not going to raise my stipend by $20. So I got to come up with that extra money.
Well, the way my shit set up right now, man, I can't wait. Google Fiber need to hurry the fuck up. It's actually the same price I'm paying now, but just to say a fuck you to Spectrum, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Spectrum's they've been okay. Like, I can't really complain too much about Spectrum right now.
I just complain when you were Time Warner. I used to call you. I used to complain, act like I'm a leave. I'm about to leave your ass. You give me a good, sweet deal for about a year. I do the same thing a year from now. Keep it going. This time, the motherfuckers will say they cut off cable then. Fuck you. What?
Yeah.
They got mad at me for cutting off cable. That woman was so mad at me on the phone, I thought I stole her grandmother's purse. Like, that's how mad she was at me. Because I was like, I don't want cable anymore. I just want internet.
So I'm thinking, this is what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to fuck myself just to fuck them. I think I'm going to go through, what's the thing called? Oh, what is it called? Anyways, it's some old other company. I can't think of the name right now.
You know, talking about
just get cable for their ass and still fuck with the Spectrum internet. Because their internet on that other company, Verizon, not Verizon. It's all with it. It's all some fuck name.
I
can't, huh?
FiO?
No, not FiO. But it's some old bitch shit like Frontier.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, their internet sucks. I can't get more than like 18 megabytes download. Now, that does not work if I'm trying to watch Netflix, do stuff for work, and all this other shit I be doing. I ain't got no business doing. Versus now the cable company, their cable package is very comparable to Spectrum. I can't think of one channel they don't have that I currently have that I fucks with. So I might just say, fuck you, Spectrum. Let me come over here and fuck with Frontier and get this cable popping, and I'll just have internet from your bitch ass that I played myself by going 300 to 100. Didn't save a single dime, but they tricked me with some wordplay. Fuck them hoes. So who the fuck needs 300 megabyte download anyway? Really?
I do.
But my upload is just the same, and that's really the impact is the upload. You know what I'm saying? 20 megabytes.
Mine is about 20 meg for the upload. Mine's about 20, and then I get 300 megabytes download. I used to
have that. Got rid of my phone, and they said, "Oh, you want to port over to Spectrum? Sure, if I get that $89.99 deal." They didn't tell me I couldn't get the $89.99 deal. They was like, "Oh, you're a previous Time Warner company. We're just gonna You're not applicable for the $89.99 triple play deal." Well, shit, bitch. If you told me that, I would have stayed right where I was at, with paying like $10 less. Got the motherfucker 300 megabytes download on and popping. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But they got me, man. That's why I can't stand the hoes.
One of my friends told me that he had what was it? It wasn't CenturyLink. It was one of those smaller companies, but he gets like 10 megs a month. I was like, he may as well have told me he had testicular cancer. I was like, 10 megs, like 10 megabytes? I'm like, what are you living
But
with?
if it's just him,
no, it's him and his family.
Oh,
yeah,
that's not gonna work.
That's like 2 kids. I'm like, what? Like the fuck you live in a South Sudan? Where are you getting 10 megs?
A video download from like Netflix is gonna be about what, 2-3 megabytes? But I know this, when I'm trying to pay my Xbox on a machine, like on one of my computers from another to stream it from the thing, I think 18, 19, 20 megabytes is what I need off the top. Because I want to say when it buffers down to 14, it gets choppy.
Yeah. I'll put it like this. Working from home, I do phone support, stuff like that from home. Mm-hmm. And my coworkers who live out west, I'm directionally challenged when it comes to North Carolina. But, they live in more rural areas, and their internet is not as great. So they always have, like, phone problems, like their phones resetting and stuff like that. And I don't have those problems. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, and that's my... Yeah, and that's my thing. So, I mean, because I pay more, I get more internet, I don't have those problems. So, like I said, if they got me by the balls, because where am I going to go? Where am I going to go to AT&T so they can throttle me? Verizon sucks dog dick. Like, I'm not going to those guys. I'm just have to patiently wait for Google Fiber.
Dog dick? That was a little explicit. Gee whiz, dude. We have a limit of what we do here.
He's like, you trying to get his band?
What the fuck, dude? You know I got fucking censored the other day. Come on, man.
Oh, man. But, yeah, the whole net neutrality thing, it's gonna get a hell of a lot. Well, here's the thing. Here's the icing on the cake before we wrap up. Now that Comcast has already won, right? Now they're trying to push Congress to put net neutrality into law, because that would be the only thing right now that could stop the net neutrality repeal, is if Congress came out and made a law. If Congress puts it in the law, then whatever Ajit Pai says, it doesn't matter. So now they're trying to push their puppets to push net neutrality repeal into law. You already have about 15, 16 states that are suing the FCC. So the big three is going to be New York, California, and Washington State. And there's a whole bunch of other states that jumped on the bandwagon.
Carolina jumped on, yeah, baby.
Did they? Oh, nice.
They did, yeah.
Their attorney generals are just like, yeah, we are suing. Mm-hmm. So this is not over yet, but... I mean, just the fact that they had the vote to repeal, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And hopefully, like I said, we got to put the screws to them. I mean, between the tax... I'm going to talk about this more on Saturday when I need more information, because this just landed on my desk. But Bob Corker senator was going to vote against a tax bill, and then they put in a provision that benefited him directly, and now he's going to vote for it. So... yeah, it's a whole lot of horse between the tax bill and net neutrality. It's a whole lot of horse shit going on, and I think it's gonna. And Donald Trump was like, "Yeah, the Republicans are gonna do okay in 2018." He only said do okay. I'm not taking Trump's word on anything anymore. I mean, not that I ever did. I mean, I'm from New York. I know Trump is always full of shit, but even Trump has to know, between net neutrality, between the tax bill, between Roy Moore, between his own sexual allegations, the only way Democrats can lose is if they fuck it up. And they're already well on their way.
Guess what? That's exactly what we gotta do, buddy.
Yep.
But you know what? This is what needs to happen. It's what we call history repeats itself. Remember, the party that freed us, the party that did the most for us in history, shows it was the Republicans. And just in modern history, maybe the late 60s, it switched over to the Democrat being the saving force of African Americans. But what have they done for us lately? What have they done for us lately?
Well, I will say this. When it comes,
hey, I gotta finish my song, motherfucker. Ooh, yeah.
When it comes to social issues, I want the Democrats on my side. When it comes to financial issues, I got to find out who your paymaster is before I do that.
Man, zoom out. These social issues are crippling. Come on, man. Just do the research.
But the thing is, Democrats are usually on our side when it comes to social issues. It's the economic issues where it's 50-50.
It's the social issues that's messed with the economic issues that are really crippling.
Right. Like you figure like this. Most Democrats are for sensible gun control. Right?
Okay, I can dig that.
That's a big social issue, especially when you have states like Chicago who has strict gun laws, but all the states that surround them do not. You know, stuff like that. You know, they're big proponents for immigration, like immigration reform, like fixing the immigration system so more people could come in legally. They're all for that. But then you got dumbass Nancy Pelosi talking about how single payer is not viable. What the fuck are you talking about? It's viable in the countries that are next to us. They have it in Mexico. They have it in Canada. There are people who retire and become Mexican citizens just so they can get health care. You got bus trips of people going to Canada to buy drugs because they can't afford it here in the States. So that's the part where you have to pay attention to what Democrats are doing. So, Odie, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts are be more like Matthew Peterson. If you don't think you're qualified, sit your ass down and step aside for people that are.
Exactly. That was painful to watch, but also entertaining. Blue, what are your final thoughts?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, but everything is broken, so we can need a lot of fixing. Watch out now.
Yeah. Exactly. And my final thoughts have nothing to do with politics. I'm glad Carmelo Anthony got booed. He came back to the Garden. They had that little tribute for him, which I thought was nice enough. But I mean, Carmelo didn't do shit for us. He held us back so much,
and now we're holding the Thunder bag.
Yeah, and now we're winning without him. You know,
and you figure badly.
They beat the Thunder without Tim Hardaway Jr. without Porzingis. And they beat the Thunder by 15 points. Mm-hmm. And the Thunder has Carmelo, Russell Westbrook, one of the best players in the NBA, and Paul George. Yeah, I blame Carmelo all the way. I guarantee they trade Carmelo. They could trade him for a box of...
Man, Carmelo's done. He just need to walk away from the game.
I think so, too. I mean, well, Carmelo's problem now is that they got him playing like a power forward. He ain't no power forward. Not at all. Because I figured they would just have Paul George be shooting guard and then let Carmelo keep playing small forward. But no, they got Carmelo playing power forward. So, yeah, whatever.
Who's their coach?
The Thunder? I'm not sure.
Well, he needs to be fired.
No, it's not his fault because, I mean, it's not like... Well, then again, put it like this. If he's the one who pushed for the trade for Carmelo, then yeah, fire him. Because they gave us Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter's been playing his ass off for us. So him and Porzingis are like the Wonder Twins out there. So I'm happy this all went down. I mean, granted, we'll probably lose in the first round of the playoffs, but that's a whole lot better than what we were last year. So that was my non-political final thought.
There you go. And that concludes another episode of POLI-TRICKS with Mercer Prescott and his band of eclectic cronies. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Urban Breakdown Podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps on your phone, tablet, or computer. All right now. Yeah.
Love. Oh.